heading back towards Aja's hut, where Helka originally kind of left part of the stash, and you all were heading off to try to find this uh, semi well known whale to at least the peoples of 10 Towns. It has been around in this region for quite some time, and many people know of it. Many nefarious figures would like to hunt and kill AngaJuk for the ambergris, but other people understand that there's something kind of mystical and wonderful about the whale as well. But in general, you all are heading back kind of in that northeasterly path. We are going to end up picking up with you all, getting close to the hut. Again, if you haven't taken it yet, make sure to take a long rest so your characters are back to full everything, full resources. And I think the scene that we are going to pick up with is as you all are coming out of the actual like snow in your face, the little bit of kind of like biting ice that is actually like flowing through the air and coming over the sea of moving ice, as you finally start to see the first signs of the hut ahead of you. You all are going to see the large kind of growth out of the water that is where the bell itself that you can kind of ring to bring AngaJuk to this area. Um, Helka would have kind of explained these things to you all when you last went to this area to set up your little cache before. And as these things start to come into view, each of you are going to start to pick out that there are figures at the hut. You're going to see one, two, four people, five people, four people. One of them might be really large, but at a distance, at this point, say like 120 or so feet, you all see about four or so people ahead of you. What is your initial thoughts as you start to see these people who are already at Aja's hut?
Uh, Delicious thinks that they might be friends with Asha, or they might just be people visiting.
Uh, Brannick is suspicious, knowing that they left some of their supplies back this way. Are we close enough to make out whether what they're whether they're specific what they're doing specifically, or is still too much distance?
Y'all are right about that area. Let me hear from Johan real quick before I kind of progress with that thought.
Johan's initial thought is that no one is up here by accident, and that these people are likely seeking um, AngaJuk for good or ill. And I think one of the first things he'd ask would be he'd turn to Helga and say something like "friends of yours." But he would also very quickly he'd kind of hunker down um, as he's a naturally cautious fellow.
Gotcha. So, Brannick, let me get a perception check from you. This will be a disadvantage for right now. But as you turn to Helka, she's going to respond to Johan. I have lost my entire crew, and there is a reason I was searching for adventurers. I don't know who this would be. Brannick, as you're kind of looking off into the area, you have a enough of a cautious bone in your body to recognize that three of these figures are closing in and about the fourth figure. One person is kind of coming at him from, or coming at them from like straight ahead, kind of the one who their attention is on. And you're almost witnessing as one person is flanking around the side of the hut, and coming at this figure from their right, and then another figure is kind of coming up from the dock from their left. Your immediate thought is the person who is in the center closest to you is probably being threatened on some level. Where we are going to pick up with this is I would like Keothi to describe yourself, and in particular, what I want you to like at present look for is the idea that you are being looked at from 100 feet away inside of a snowstorm, and being seen by your back. So if you carry a backpack or weapons on your back, I want you to describe like kind of that level of things. Again, I didn't actually get a chance to say things as I got distracted by me seeks, but I do want you to remember that we went, or at least it was vaguely planned, that you have a sled with you. So you don't necessarily have your backpack on you. But if you went with a sled, can you also describe the sled? Um, just like a size kind of thing that they might see. Like, is it heavily laden with things? But just again, like from a distance, what do they see at present?
So you see a tall, powerfully muscled humanoid. He's heavily wrapped in furs, but you can faintly see a number of markings on his face that look like they might be tattoos. Uh, he carries a great axe in his hands, and he has a longbow and quiver attached to his back. You can't make out anything more from this distance.
So, Brannick, as you kind of identify that this lone figure is at least being threatened at present, what is your kind of like second thought that you have happening here?
Second thought would be seeing this guy um, getting ganged up on. Figures maybe we should even the odds a bit.
So, Keothi, at present, you are seeing two different people. One is directly ahead of you, kind of like almost yelling to you in the wind to kind of get your attention. And it's kind of like, Oi, what are you doing here? This is ours. We're going to take this whale. And then you'll like see the other one kind of coming up from the dock, just staying like low to the ground and just eyeing you with like a little like nefarious look as he's clearly trying to flank you. When the third of them, the calmest and a little bit most composed, is coming at you from kind of like south and east of you and kind of rounding the corner of this hut that you're basically like stopping to, take a little shelter, whatever it may be. It's a hut in the actual tundra of this Arctic waste. And that's not the type of thing to be ignored. And they're all starting to kind of move up on you. Um, all of them have weapons at the ready. Most of them at present are not yet drawn. But what is your thought, Keothi?
Keothi uses thaumaturgy to amplify his voice and shouts, "If you value your lives, you will stay clear of me." And he brandishes his great axe.
So let me have a intimidation from you. And then let me get a perception from the three of you who are in this. Oh, just to let you all know, you are in the southwest of this map. If it is all black, just kind of scroll down and right, or down and left.
Okay, I was wondering why it was all black.
Eight is not very intimidating.
You should be gone from this place. before we have to do things that you're going to regret. And as the figure kind of south and east of you says this, he's going to draw his longsword, and you see as he like pulls it out to his right hand, and with two little kind of like motions forward, he's going to say, Morven, Erstward, let us remove him from the possession of that axe before choices are made. So I think you three, back away from the actual action here, are going to hear more of the actual boom. Do you have sound now, Larry?
I hope so.
You can hear me? That's good.
Yeah, I in between Drew Longsword and boom, though, I don't know what happened.
All right, I mean, you don't necessarily know this anyways. It's kind of meta knowledge as is, but you would have seen him kind of like motion with the tip of his longsword with kind of like two little kind of like flicks of his wrist, where he basically called to the two people who were moving up from the other flank and in front of Keothi to remove his axe from his possession. Basically, that it's time for them to disarm him before something bad happens to him. But they're going to kind of continue to close this distance. The three of you back from afar are basically nice rolls there, Justin. The three of you back from afar, you hear the boom of Keothi like raising his voice, but don't necessarily pick out the words as the wind and the snow is just sucking too much of the actual vibration from the air. But at this point, I think we're going to throw you all into initiative as these figures are kind of circling around Keothi. If everybody can select their miniatures and roll for that initiative. Oh, and you know what? Without any actual hesitation, I think it would be perfectly viable to note for Keothi that as they're starting to actually circle around you, you would be well aware that there's two other figures that seem to be moving to the northwest of you. Actually, almost properly north of you. There's a couple of like structures of ice kind of coming up out of the actual sea of ice. And they seem to be kind of like covered behind this, but you would start to see effectively that they have archers who are already like kind of on overwatch positions looking you down.
Okay. How far away are the archers? Like 100 feet?
Probably within about 30 or so feet of you.
Okay.
um, so the first one is going to take a shot at Keothi. And as she hits, she's going to do 7 piercing damage to you, but I want you to do a strength check. You can do athletics to try to or strength saving throw, I guess, to maintain a hold on your axe. So as one of your hands is like pierced through with an arrow, you're going to again like be able to see that one of these figures that was kind of moving off in that distance is actively like becoming a threat at this point. And you'll see that again like she's kind of moved off to this edge. Well aimed shot was a good thought, but you're just too stalwart to be so easily disarmed. And you maintain your axe in your hand, little bit of blood to waken you for this oncoming fun to be had. Velixis, what are you doing? Oh,
Sorry about that.
what are you doing here, Velixis? As you see, like the movement ahead is started as there's an arrow from off beyond your view placed into this lone person's hand.
Okay, so I can't see the two that's up here on the cliff.
At present, like the people who are to the north of the map, you essentially just like know that there's an arrow that came from there.
Okay, since she's not sure where the arrow, since she only knows which direction the arrow came from, she's actually just gonna move closer. But right now, to try, she's gonna run. She's gonna dash to try to get closer real quick. See if she can get any of them in view.
You see the three of them that are directly in front of him.
Okay, so okay. See, that's why I was confused. I thought the two like up here were the ones out of view.
Yeah, like right now, you all from like that very like lower left part of this map see basically what I have here. I revealed the other two a little bit more for Keothi to recognize as arrows actually started to fly from that area.
Okay, then yeah, she's gonna move her full 30 feet, and she's going to cast an ice knife at the one like right here.
Let me get a direction from it, like the like left, like northwest, kind of northeast or southern.
The one on the left. Sorry, I tried to click it so that it'll ping it so you could see it, but I guess it didn't work.
Gotcha. So the one by the dock.
Yes.
Gotcha. Make that attack. So that will hit. You'll see the knife kind of pierce through their chest, and as it is going to explode on the opposite side,
You cut out for me after out on the opposite.
yeah, I had to roll his hit points first. Um, yeah, you're just going to see as that figure starts to like freeze as the knife passes through their chest and the ice explosion kind of like pops behind. You're actually going to see like a gaping wound as this ice pierces back through where the knife passed, and their body is going to slowly start to freeze out from that wound until their chest is all entirely frozen in ice, and that person is going to stop moving instantly.
Oh shit! All right, so ice works really well on these guys. And that'll be her turn for that then. She after she moved her 30 feet, but move her.
Oh, my bad. I did that wrong. I need you to roll the damage. I don't know why I looked at that as you did 16 and 25 damage. That was
I
a
was
lot of
confused. I
damage.
was like, wait, are these guys
Anytime
just
you
supposed
roll
to be?
something and the damage doesn't come up, I need you to click the damage right away. Yeah, that's not nearly as powerful as I was thinking.
Okay, because I was like, what?
Psych. Yeah, so that's gonna pierce through him. It's gonna leave him wounded. He's not yet like in a bloodied state, and he's certainly not dead. Any bonus action from you? Otherwise, it will move forward.
Yeah, I'm just move. She's just moving, and that's it.
All right. So
One moment. What was your actual dex bonus with Brannick? +3? All right, yep, it will be on you.
okay. Yeah, sorry, I forgot it might be somebody else. Um okay, so yeah, Braddock seeing as kind of the weapon gets drawn and sensing that things are, some sort of fight's imminent, is gonna kind of pick up his pace and kind of moving forward. He's gonna kind of like shout out. Not really sure if anybody's gonna be able to hear over the wind, but like uh, and seeing that arrow come out, figuring there's at least one more is like four more on one's hardly sporting, and he's going to kind of with his orb grasped in one hand, he's going to hold his hand out and launch a firebolt at the what he thinks might be the leader, the one that drew his weapon first, the one to the right of Keothi.
So as the firebolt smacks into that one, you're going to see as they kind of react in a moment of surprise, not actually recognizing that others had kind of make this at this point, and they're seeing one of their friends stab through with this blade that exploded into his shoulder and started to freeze him. And then they are burned, and you're going to see as this figure kind of takes a moment to look into your direction, recognizing that things have perhaps at least in a little bit have begun to change in this moment. Any other bonus from you?
Nope, that's it for me.
Gotcha. So from a distance, one of these other archers is going to take another shot into Keothi. Once again, with that kind of, they're still on that disarming moment. So the first shot, I am on a whisper and I just critted. She is going to do 11, 13 piercing damage to your hand, and then I want you to make a strength saving throw to maintain your axe, this time at disadvantage. And that's going to be perfectly fine, as both of your hands are pierced through at this point. Your axe is almost like grasped into your hands, where you just can't even drop it. But you're going to recognize that the second of these figures has as well revealed themselves and perhaps given a little bit too much away as to where they currently are. And I believe that's going to take us to Keothi. What would you like to do?
Keothi roars with anger, and he briefly touches his left hand to the amulet around his necklace, and he casts Zephyr Strike. He then moves to the leader and attacks 3 times.
Which one do you foresee as the leader? Excellent choice. First hit is going to blast into their furs, and as this strike with your axe comes down, you're going to feel the clink of some sort of strong, like plate type armor underneath these furs. And as the kind of strike applies, this person's going to kind of hold back one moment as they almost crush beneath the blow and kind of rise back up. Next attack. That was actually for 14, right? Zephyr Strike is for the first hit.
Yeah, the first one that hits. So that was 14.
With that strike, it's going to hit in the same like sound and deflect off of this figure. And this time you recognize that the armor has indeed protected them. But part of the fur is kind of cut away, and you see that they're wearing this sturdy steel armor just beneath their furs. And that strike they're able to move away from.
All right, Keothi is aware of the bowman, so he is going to move around the leader so that he is protected behind the hut. And he's going to shout, "Welcome, friends! What a wonderful battle!" And that's the end of the go.
Excellent. Johan, you've seen a few arrows flying from the north. You've seen your friends draw into the battle, and you've seen the figure who's being attacked by overwhelming numbers make a stand and do a good solid attack into this figure who appears to be leading them. What would you like to do?
The instant Johann recognizes that this is a Goliath, he abandons all caution and screaming out or shouting out, I'll say, "Oh yeah, Minartalk!" He actually sprints all the way forward, basically forgetting all caution, throws all caution aside to rush to the aid of this Goliath.
Gotcha. So just straight running forward with your movement, doing that dash action, and any bonus action from you?
Yeah, with bonus action, he'll throw um, spiritual weapon, um, and attack the same creature that it. That's the one.
Not sure how to describe the spiritual weapon just missing here. Um, I think as it kind of strikes out, it's just enough that it kind of like impacts into this person, and you almost hear like the ringing of the metal just beneath as they kind of stand firm with one foot a little bit drawn back behind them, more or less at this point in an attack position, ready to respond. And that is exactly what they are going to do.
Johann will happily use 1 point of inspiration.
Okay, I got you. So, yeah, you can definitely make that a solid hit as you strike into them. That is going to indeed kind of shatter into their armor. And at that point of contact, you're going to start to see in the next few moments as the first signs of blood are actually dripping from the flesh. The armor beneath their furs seems to have buckled underneath the pressure of your spiritual weapon and cut maybe just the surface levels of their skin.
Uh, what about Torleth? Are they dawdling?
At present, like in the long run, like um your retinue characters are definitely more for when you all are like a threesome.
Ah,
In
got it.
general, with a 4-person party, things are designed for that. it can still be swingy. I prefer 6-person parties. But in the long run, the general goal of that retinue is to prevent the super swingy nature of 3 people playing together. So we can kind of assume that they're around. Maybe they are being ambushed from other characters, but in general, I'm very quick to forget your retinue to allow you all to experience it as single characters.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So that was it. Dash and spiritual war.
So let's see. So as blood is first drawn, this person is going to, with their foot kind of behind them, eyeing forward towards Keothi, and this has already gone too far. And in a quick flurry, is going to dash forward and with 2 quick strikes out at Keothi, um, continue forward with this attack. The first one being kind of offset from the last blow from that spiritual weapon, and the second one just as much is going to be off. You can see this wound is just perhaps a little bit too much for this person to maintain. And then the other 2. So this next figure is going to yell out, um, we please, I we came for the whale. I don't want any problems. And draws his sword and throws it down into the snow. And then one of the other ones is going to look towards them. Eastward, you coward. And is going to kind of run back around and close in that distance to the seeming leader, and make a strike, 2 strikes out at Keothi. Uh, First one with a 12, I believe that's below your AC. That second one should hit you as this person's swinging a mace, 1, 2, and it's going to do 3 bludgeoning damage, as it's basically just a glancing blow right off of your, almost like glances off of your axe mid swing and just kind of catches part of your arm. But as they
Yoki
strike out,
sneers at him.
one of the archers from above is going to take a shot into Valixis. And she should be able to gain purchase with a 16. Yeah, and it's going to do 4 piercing damage to you, as the arrow kind of catches into you. And it will actually be on you there, Valixis. And properly speaking, in case you're vindictive of the person who shot you, it is the one to the northwest who has taken that shot.
He's actually going to. She's going to move forward a little bit, and she's going to. She's actually going to fire a fireball at the guy that shot at her. So she's going to move forward like 10 feet and then fire firebolt.
Excellent. Let's see that attack. Same thing. Anytime you roll something, no damage shows up, please roll the damage right away. It's going to be like glancing blow right off the ice, but right into their face as they're pulling another arrow. And you can see as part of their face is going to be seared in that attack. Any bonus or other movement from you?
She's actually going to move to the left. Like, since she already moved 10 feet, she's going to move to the left like 20 to try to get out of range or out of sight of the archers.
And then Brannick, what are you going for?
All right, so Brannick is continuing to move forward as he launched that firebolt. Kind of tries to catch the eye of like Johann and the Goliath as he does so, and he's like almost like kind of like making a ducking hand wave motion with his hand, and then he's going to, after he does that, bring his hands back together, extend them out, and fire burning hands into the two enemies.
Gotcha. I think I've got your DC as 13.
I have it as 14 now.
14? Word. My bad. I probably just didn't keep up with that. Damn it. Every time I roll for hit points, one is going to pass, and the other one is going to fail. I should have delineated those different. So, odd it will be the captain, even it will be the other one. So it's going to be on the captain of them. And so they'll each be singed. The captain seems to be a little bit less burned than the other one, but any bonus or further movement from you?
He's gonna just like back away a few feet as he casts that. My last two rolls for that spell, damage rolls, have been just awful. I think it was 5 the last time on 3d6. But that's it. That's it for Brannick.
Give me one moment here to get their lives updated. All right, so this is going to take it to the next of the archers, who is going to and then Keothi. What would you like to do?
Keothi says, "Welcome," to the strange man standing beside him.
Oh, you know
And
what? I
then,
kind of skipped over a key little point here. Now that you all are actually in a little bit closer of a occurrence, let's take a quick little pause here and describe what you all look like in combat. He's not going to see much about you. Describe the like purest, like initial feeling of what he's going to see as you all are in a fury of blows, swords, arrows, fire. Like, what kind of things does he see when he looks at Johann?
So he sees a say 6 foot tall human, um, dressed bundled up. The only thing about his clothes is that the furs are seal furs as opposed to land animals. Um, and I think he probably noted the big thing he notices about Johann at this moment is a lot of emotional commitment to this to this approach. He seems like a passionate fellow, Johann.
Gotcha. What does he see as Brannick lights up with fire?
So Brannick is roughly similar size to Johann in the kind of tough to make out his build, but about 6 feet. He's got a dagger clutched in his right hand as he's coming forward, and he's got this looks like it might be a glass or crystal, some sort of like circular orb in his left that seems to as he's been casting these spells, seems to like briefly flare up. Um,
That should
and
be good.
yeah, that's probably about it. What you see like in the thick of things.
And for right now, Alexis, I'm actually going to throw it back to you, Keothi's turn, because I'm going to say you're just a little bit too small and a little bit too far away for him to even necessarily recognize you at this point.
Fair enough.
So my bad about that, Gareth. Continue on with your little moment there.
I am going to cast Hunter's Mark on the leader to do an
Gotcha.
awesome 1 point of additional damage.
Truly unfortunate.
And then I'm going to mightily swing my great axe and cleave him through the skull. Or her. Cleave them through the skull.
They're not going to be doing terribly well after that strike. And yeah, you're pretty sure you've at least done a good chunk of scalping this person at present.
And that's the end of my turn.
Johann. This person before you is severely wounded. You've nearly got them. Another one has closed in to their aid. What do you have in mind?
Can I do my bonus attack with the spiritual weapon first?
Oh, of course, yep.
Yep, that's okay. So I try to finish. I try to attack the severely wounded.
So between those two strikes, the axe to their head and the spiritual weapon forcing them into the side of this hut, this person is going to crumble to the ground and cease to be moving.
And then Johann fires his crossbow because I suppose that's the other thing that Keothi notices is that um, he brings a crossbow to a mace fight. He fires his crossbow at disadvantage at the other person in front of them.
So as they're charging forward at you to close this distance and you take that shot, it's just enough of a moment for them to be able to move out of the way of the bolts, and it kind of passes through a little bit of their clothing, but you can tell they're not actually wounded from that strike. Any movement from you?
I'm engaged. I do not disengage, so no. Can I pivot? Can I kind of shift around and still stay within 5 feet of this person?
Oh yeah, 100%. So in the moment that this person is closing to strike in on you, and kind of bringing their mace up to swing once more into Keothi, you're just going to see, as in recognition, their will is being shattered, and they're still trying to follow through with the attack. But you can see that they're kind of like already in that moment of giving up. I'm going to make their attacks with disadvantage, as soon after the attacks, he's just going to be dropping his mace and dropping to his knees. So let's see which one of you. He's gonna go for 2 strikes um, at Johan there, and again disadvantage for the first, and then for the second, and then he's going to drop his mace, dropping to his knees. Oh, we are yours. Be kind. We have not come here for you. Him, and kind of looking off to his slain leader, you can see as I am yours to command. One of the archers closing the distance from the ice, running out to kind of back up their leader, is going to be pulling their arrow to full length before seeing the actual state of things, lowering her bow, just going to yell out, Fanarth, we are bested. Lay down your bow. Command us. And she as well is going to lay down her bow. Alexis, what are you doing?
Did I see? Wait, have so all the enemies have laid their weapons down so far?
From what you can see right now, the archer who is immediately to the north of you is like lowering her bow and did not do anything. The person who's over by the dock is basically like standing with his hands raised, no weapons on his person. They threw down their sword a few seconds ago. And then there's another person who's like striking out at Johan, but like without having their heart in it. And basically, like after striking into Johan twice, drops his mace and is basically dropped to his knees, hands like behind his head, pleading with Johan.
Okay, then for now she's just gonna remain cautious. She's gonna move closer to everyone else, but she's definitely going to remain cautious other of the other guys that still have their weapons, even though they are lowered. So she's not going to attack. She's just gonna move closer.
Cautious is taking the dodge action.
Wait, what do you mean?
What do you mean by cautious?
Oh, basically, sorry. She's just basically been very careful of the others because even though they didn't attack, she's still gonna be wary of their actions while she moves closer to her ally. So, like, I guess, yeah, if she notices that they go to fire at her, she will dodge. But for
Well,
now,
you can take the dodge action then. To me, when you say cautious, that means you're taking the dodge action.
okay,
You're
okay,
you're not doing anything hostile like preparing a spell where you're like casting firebolt and you're just holding it for them to do something. That would be like basically you guarding over them. Whereas like for a trigger that would be like a hostile action versus like taking the dodge action as being like you're trying to protect yourself knowing that it could start back up, but it seems like it's already ended and you probably don't need to kill anybody at this point.
okay, yeah, yep. Then yeah, dodge action.
Brannick, what do you have in mind?
Would Brannick have noticed the direction that that last archer was heading? The one that the other archer basically just told to lay down his bow. The one behind the shed or the hut.
Roll a perception for me here. I think that's perfectly acceptable. Like, as your fire was kind of like ceasing and kind of pulling back into your hands, you kind of see like in the glow their figure kind of running like across that side of your vision, and they're crossing behind the hut.
Okay, yeah. So Brannick would move sort of past the others, trying to get an eye on him. Um, and he would be like calling out, like, "Listen to your friend," and he would he's gonna hold a firebolt, and if the remaining archer attacks, he'll retaliate.
Gotcha.
But otherwise, that's all for him.
So as they kind of like round um this side of the hut, taking a quick look around to the front, around when the other one is yelling out. You're going to watch as they let loose the string and slowly just extend their hand, reducing the tension, lowering their bow, and kind of looking to you as your fist starts to glow with the firebolt. They're going to look up to you. Please, I don't mean to be a threat. We were here for the whale. We are sorry to have assaulted your friend. We thought they came to take the ambergris. I am going to drop my bow. And then he drops his bow at the back of the hut.
Yeah, and I think at that point, as that happens, you would see Brent, like the kind of the glow of the orb sort of slowly fade as he kind of releases the um, spell without firing it.
So I think at this point, it's kind of Keothi or Johan, if either of you are doing anything hostile. Um, do you have any intention to kind of continue it here, Keothi?
No, Keothi is going to look around and see that everyone has surrendered and rest his great axe on the ground and look at his wounded hands.
Rest it on the ground like you're kind of like setting the top of it and almost like using it like a cane, or you're like dropping it to the ground to inspect your wounds.
I'm not completely dropping it. I'm leaning the handle against my body.
So yeah, that's
Which
kind
is,
of what I was
yeah,
thinking. It's almost like the heavy part is on the ground, so you almost have like a staff or a cane extending up to you.
yes.
Excellent. So you can inspect those wounds. And then, Johann, any thoughts as you see this person who's giving in to you? You have someone at your right flank who's dropping their bow, somebody calling out from the west who's calling for that surrender, and Keothi is beginning like this large Goliath. I believe you're probably about 2 feet taller than Johann, is kind of like starting to release his axe, setting it down to his person, and inspecting these wounds where 2 arrows have pierced through his hands.
Yeah, and the person in front of us has dropped their weapon entirely, or is uh, just not swinging it at me.
Yeah, like his last 2 attacks were like trying to bash you with the mace, and it just like wasn't with any strength. It was almost like his brain catching up to the situation, but he then dropped his mace. So it's basically at his knees, just right in front of him. But this person is basically kneel down prone before you, begging for your forgiveness.
Yeah, so Johann, it kind of spins from target to target, and that can he see this one to the northwest? If they still have, I think they still had their weapon in their hand, um, and pointing his crossbow at them, says, "Drop the weapon," drop the bow, and he'll hold his crossbow attack. But if they draw if they sort of redraw the arrow, he'll fire the crossbow at them.
Gotcha. So as you all kind of clean up this moment, that lone figure is going to drop her bow as well, and as I think she's actually going to very slowly kind of display that she's not like pulling tension on the bow, as she kind of like drops it to like where she's holding one end of the notch and slowly sets it down. I think that's meant to be almost like a fence like structure, kind of like a windbreak from the ocean. And she's going to like kind of cautiously set it against that, stepping away from it afterwards and starting to approach you all. We are sorry. My friends and I are not threats to you. We came here with Gendren to try to make some profit from this whale that we know to be in this place. There is a lot of money if we can slay it. Perhaps you would help us. You can take whatever, please. Give us some of the money, but we will work for you or set us free.
Eothi growls and says, AngaJuk is not for the killing.
There is a lot of power for your friends who work the weave. There is a lot of money for those who need heat. You would not hurt AngaJuk for any of these things. Go ahead,
Keothi,
Rabbi.
Keothi says, you can leave, and points into the wilderness.
What's everyone else thinking right now?
So Brennick would be kind of looking at this, and he's more his interest would be more piqued by what the I'm just going to call her a bandit. I don't, but what or Fenarth is saying about what might be obtainable from this whale, and he's going to look towards Keothi as Keothi crawls out. He's like, let's not be too hasty. To dismiss these people quite yet. Perhaps they have information that might be useful. Perhaps we can find some use for them.
Johann, nods at what Brannick says, and what he's thinking is that they're there for whale oil. They are there for whale oil, just not from AngaJuk. So, in Johann's, what he's thinking is, four workers could be helpful.
So at present, you all have these thoughts going on in your minds. You have their conversation already kind of continuing. Like, discuss amongst yourselves. What are you all thinking here? I think the initial response from this person is going to be kind of approaching closer to Keothi as he goes to send them off and looks back like towards her bow, and she's like, May I take my protection?"
Take your bow.
Friend, is there no room? Sending a person into this wilderness is as close to a death sentence as there is.
They have just tried to kill me. Why should I respect their lives?
It is a fair point. What say you? And he says that addressed to the um, to the bow woman. You have attacked this man. Your life is forfeit.
We are your servants. Instruct us as you will. It's clear we are no match if you slay the best of us. So simply.
Keothi looks around at the others who've come to his aid, and he says, "What think you, my friends? Should they be allowed to leave, or do you require their services?"
Velis is like, I'm kind of small, and my hands is tiny as well, so I can't really do too much heavy lifting or work. But having extra hands around would definitely benefit everybody, especially since I can't really do too much work that requires any kind of lifting out here or moving.
Yes, as I said, kind of looking towards Keothi's, they may prove of some use. And then he's going to look towards the um, sort of the ones who surrendered and be like, but no, I'll be able to sense if you're planning to betray us. I have a nose for this sort of thing. And then looking back towards Keothi, by the way, what should we call you? I'm Brannick.
Keothi smiles a big smile and says, "I am Keothi Ogre's Bane." And even though he is 7'6" and he's hugely muscled, you look at his face and you hear his voice and you realize that he's actually very young, little more than a teenager. He couldn't be more than 15 or 16 years old.
Well, Keothi Ogre's Bane. Glad we could. Glad we didn't have to fight off all these people yourselves. What brings you out this way?
Yes, thank you for your timely aid. I appreciate it greatly. I have been hunting for elk. I Go out every few days and I hunt elk and I butcher them and I take the hides and the meat back to 10 towns to sell. When I have made enough money, I will buy my goods and I will return to my home in the mountains far to the east.
Brennick nods and kind of looks again towards the remaining attackers who've surrendered, and then he'll look back towards Keothi and, well, you are the one they attacked, so I will defer to your decision, but I do think they might come in useful.
Yothi says, I have no thirst for blood. These may live if it is your will. And then he kicks the plate mail armor of the bandit at his feet and says, but the armor on this one will sell for a pretty penny in the towns. I say we take it and we divide it the sale price between us.
Generous of you, says Johann, and then indicating his hands, he says, may I tend to your wounds? And Johann pulls his snow goggles off, and Keothi sees that Johann has piercing blue eyes, and Johann looks deep into Keothi's eyes and says, do you know Oya Minartok? I owe her my life.
Roll a history for me, Keothi. You're aware of a Goliath who goes by that name, almost a mystical figure in their own right. Very similar lifestyle as yourself, is that they don't, in particular, live with any clan of Goliaths. But they, from your knowledge, are somebody who keeps watch over the area via Kelvin's cairn.
Okay, yes, Keothi nods his head and he holds out his injured hands and says, please. And then he nods his head again and says, yes, I know this person.
Johann would get very excited and sort of press for details, which I wouldn't imagine are available. But Keothi would clearly see that Johann is obsessed with finding this Oya Minartok. And I threw cure wounds.
Yeah, just that general reminder for you all, and then for Gareth's sake, like anything that I say to the whole group, it's assumed that you kind of share with them. You don't necessarily have to repeat things. So if you ever wanted to hold something back, just kind of let them know that level. But I'm sure there would probably be like kind of a moment of thought where it kind of dawns on you that this person may be too young to necessarily have had a chance to meet I don't have the name directly in front of me, but Omatharunatak, the great druid shape changing Goliath. But you can almost see that this is like, actually, you know what? Do like an insight from me, and let me see a performance from Keothi as well. Like do an insight with Johann.
And a performance from Keothi?
Yeah, performance. So you see that there's a certain level of kind of like a fanboy like smile that will cross over Keothi. Johann, you probably have a pretty good understanding that this figure might actually be the type of thing where this is like the whole reason that you're experiencing a Goliath who is out on his own is somebody who has that like aspiration. You've met different people in 10 towns who they like hear about adventurers and they just want to talk about all of your adventures, never letting it set in that there's anything like negative about adventuring. This is kind of like that moment between you and Keothi where you have a sneaking suspicion that perhaps Keothi is out here because of a maroon attack, and that kind of like level of like one day I'm going to be that badass. So Helka's going to look to you all as you're kind of coming to a little bit of a consensus, and she's going to point off to some barrels that are over near the ice near the bell, and look back towards the archer on like let's say the far west, has been the one who's been kind of talking the most, apparently like their new kind of captain, and she's going to point to the barrels, point back to that one. Tell me, what have you all brought here and placed before AngaJuk's, um, let's call it the blowhole. It's kind of a unique like thing in the actual ice because the tides like shoot water out of it. But as she kind of like references it, the archer's going to turn back and look at the barrels, look back up to Helka. Gendron told us that if we would poison the water here, we could kill the whale with little trouble to ourselves and be able to harness many thousand gold coins worth of ambergris in a matter of a day or two. We have invested our coin in that oil for the hope that we can make much more. We were preparing to pour it in when we saw this one, and we thought perhaps he was a threat. So Halka will kind of like look over to you all, look back to them. You brought more oil to help poison AngaJuk. And she'll look back to you all. If you decide to keep them, they are more help for us, and we already have more oil to add to our boon.
Keothi looks around and says, "You have come also for AngaJuk?"
Helka's gonna look to Keothi. We have not come here to harm the whale. I have in the past made friends with her and have been able to gain passage through the sea of moving ice. I have friends on the water who have oil to sell, and I hope to bring it to 10 towns. With these folks here as my guardians, we have set out to turn some coin, but not to harm AngaJuk.
Keothi nods and smiles. This is good.
Perhaps you would join us, friend.
It sounds like you have a profit-making venture ahead of you. If you'll share with me the profits, then I would be pleased to join you.
I think Johann probably turns his attention and addressing the bow woman who seems to sort of have taken over as leader. He says, "How does that sit with you? Profit for all, or you go on your way? No weapons, of course."
She'll point over to Quixote and he said we could take our weapon. We are no threat to you.
You can take your weapons and leave, or you can remain with us for profit.
And when we prove we will serve you, you will return our weapons.
Quixote looks like he's thinking very hard and glances at Johann for advice.
And then while this is kind of crossing over you, and you kind of looking back towards Johann, like you can see like they have this idea that like one person is saying one thing, one person is saying one thing, but they're trying to like play to the advantage of each. You would make us your partner in your venture, and we would split everything, kind of looking across. Um, and it's kind of a weird moment here, but there's technically two other characters who are not presently here right now, Keothi, so the math is about to not work out. But we will split everything 11 ways.
Quixote frowns and says, I liked the idea of you four being slaves better.
I think perhaps you overestimate the amount of leverage you have. Um, if you prove useful, I see no reason not to let you share in the spoils, but an equal share may be pushing it a bit too far.
She'll kind of like bow as she extends her arms out to the side, head almost down to the snow. We are your servants. What is our share is our share. What is the deal then that you already have? And she kind of like is still figuring out this moment, but I think maybe at this point she's kind of connecting the dots that it seems like Helka has a deal with Felixis, Johann, and Brannick. And she'll kind of like look to the four of you. What is your deal now? And then she'll look over to Keothi and kind of look back. Where do we fit in to helping? So at this point, if you all would like, let's take a break here and we'll come back like right before the hour. But basically at this point, I'm trying to invite you guys to pose a contract, like a thought of if you all want these four figures to join you, um, they need coin to survive. So you have to pay them something. If you're ready to set them free, they need weapons to survive. Otherwise, you all are killing them in the tundra, or you should just kill them here. But take some time to kind of think where you all sit on that idea. And then right about 5, we will pick back up.
Quixote doesn't really care too much for the coin and the bargaining. He's in it because he's met some new and wonderful people that have the ability to shoot fire out of their hands. He would like to look at the four living beings and raise an eyebrow and say, do you value this one? And would you like us to bury him?
So I believe everybody is still back, so we can definitely like join back up with that idea. And as you offer a burial for Gentrin, you'll see as Gerst kind of looks over to you all, and we are all compatriots, and Gendrin was the one to bring us all together. I think they would be just as happy buried at sea as anything else, unless your friends who throw fire can produce flame hot enough to turn them to ash.
The sea is a good resting place, says Johann. I think we should do the rites there. I think maybe taking that opportunity, Johann, takes the cold weather gear, opens the cold weather gear and examines that plate armor. Has the plate armor been ruined, or could one wear the plate armor?
I would say, in general, as with pretty much all things, you could find a way to use that. It is not presently usable, but it is one of those things where you all could take it to a blacksmith, and gain some profit from it by selling it, or gain some profit from it by replacing armor with it. But in general, I would say, as with almost everything, armor that somebody dies in is not going to be terribly useful armor.
Are nuts.
Brennick is going to look towards the four of them and kind of move a little bit closer towards them, then looking back towards the others, and then back towards the prisoners, I guess, for lack of a better word. As I said, I think if you prove useful to us on this venture, I for one would be willing to pay you a bit.
Helka's going to kind of look to you and be like, Brennick, if you will, come a little closer. And then she'll look over to Keothi, and if you intend to join us on this journey, let us talk for a moment. And then kind of like looks off to Felixis and to Torith and Florinda, and just kind of like, again, that's kind of how I have things situated here, with like the guard them while we talk money here. And the five of you kind of getting closer together there. Oh, we have an opportunity before us. If you were looking to join us, I will give you all an equal share, paying 200 gold, 50 gold apiece, to the four of you. Therefore, barrels of oil there should cover that cost. My money will be part of what we then all profit from, as my cost of hiring you is now a boon of their gift. We can then give them an equal share of our whole troop from our entirety of the profit that is gained by the barrels that I can purchase. Would that be acceptable?
Well, as I see it, that still leaves us in a better position than we were previously. So that would work for me.
Keothi nods as if he understands what everyone's talking about and says, "Yep."
Oh, you already said you're here for trade. You understand this.
Johann nods.
Belixis agrees.
Excellent. So, we should be able to call AngaJuk here, meet my friends in the Sea of the Moving Ice, and perhaps without any further difficulties, be able to return to 10 towns with 10 or 12 barrels of oil to sell, and at 50 coin apiece, make a nice profit. And again, part of that idea will basically be if you all come back with um, like 10 barrels, you guys will basically have what is that, 5,000 gold that you guys will, not 5,000, my math is terrible, 1,000 gold that you guys will get paid your 200 from, and then also make basically 10% of that as your share. So you guys at 10 barrels would be looking at like 130 gold a piece. I think that sounds right.
Well then, let's not delay any longer.
No, wait, I fucked up that math. She has to recoup her money, and then the profits is what you all split. So it will end up being, I think you're looking at basically between like 80 and 100 gold, basically, for doing this, if you all get like 10 to 12 barrels total. But as she kind of gets the nod from each of you, she'll look back to Brannick. Approach them and offer them as little as you would like, but know that you can offer them more. If you can get them to agree for less, simply more profit for us all.
Brennick will nod and kind of now with a little bit of a better understanding, will sort of move back towards the four, and we've discussed it amongst ourselves. And as I said, should you prove helpful on this trip, we're prepared to offer you 5 gold apiece.
Me, the DM, is laughing really hard right now. And you would request our services for how long? We would be free men on your venture. We would be armed and allowed to defend ourselves in danger.
With any luck, things won't come to that, but
We are in the wilds of the north. Things will come to that.
and
If
give me a
you
moment.
will remove us from our weapons, you will pay us 10 gold, and you must protect us. If any harm comes to one of us, you will pay us twice the share. To those who survive, 20 gold apiece.
Johann makes a pah sound.
Then allow us to defend ourselves. So danger is not ours to die to, and we can live free and aid you.
If we agree to this, then understand one false move by any of you spells the death of all of you.
The one who surrendered quickest is going to look to you all, and he kind of like scoffs for a moment. I threw down my weapon moments into this fight. My life should not be forfeit if another makes a terrible choice and decides to attack. What if I I should not be accountable to their choices?
Johann kind of blusters up. You want to be praised for abandoning your shipmates in battle, is it?
I want to not die for making an intelligent choice.
Ah, I say 2 gold apiece is too good to split among the survivors. It's good enough for all of them. Maybe I should roll a performance check on this. I'm strictly just trying to play bad cop here.
You can roll a performance for right now. At present, you're going to get a reply from Gerst, who kind of looks over to you. Gendron spent over 200 gold on the barrels that you have already claimed as your own. If I am correct that you are here for oil, even 80 gold for the service of the 4 of us is more than generous. You should have taken that and been happy with your profit. Pay us 25 apiece, allow us our weapons, and we will serve you. Or let us be free and make our own way.
Oh, now we're being lectured by those who we defeat, who attacked us unprovoked, and who we defeated, took their bounty as is rightfully ours, and now we're being lectured by them. Oh, this is fine. Perhaps we should just send them. Perhaps we should just take care of all of this now.
No, Johann. They do have a point. We all need to eat, after all. But 15 gold apiece, and should any of you attack us, that person's share and life is forfeit. It will not be distributed amongst the others.
25 is more than generous. Let me get a persuasion from you there, Brannick. You offer 15. 25 is an incredible boon. Pay us 20 apiece, and I assure you, if any of my friends here betray you, I will be the one to end their life for you.
So Brannick's going to look back towards the others and kind of try and subtly kind of give a small nod of his head to suggest that he thinks they should agree to this offer, but he'll wait to see what the others think.
Not out of character, can we get like an insight check on what this guy's telling us?
I mean, you can insight check them. What are you thinking here, though? Like, you just want a generic insight
I
check?
want to know
Or
if I
there's
can
something
trust
in-
what they're saying. Are they telling the truth when they say that they're going to serve us faithfully and not stab us in the back the first time we look away?
Gotcha. You can roll an insight check. You have a pretty solid sense that as this person is standing forward to the others, they are effectively becoming their voice and their champion. You have a pretty solid sense that this is somebody who is effectively in that statement commanding the other ones. Don't do anything stupid. Or, despite knowing you, I'll be the one to kill you. And that will give you some confidence that this person's probably not a threat to you all.
With that insight, Keothi turns to the others and says, I think that's a good deal. 20 gold each, and give them their weapons. They can help us.
You are the injured party. I say, what is good to you is good to me.
Keothi looks around, makes sure everyone else agrees. And then he goes over and picks up the trail for his sled and drags it over to where the body is.
And Brannick will, kind of seeing that they seem to have reached now a consensus, will turn back to the one who spoke forward and give a nod, and 20 then agreed.
So right now I have effectively, you all will take your 200. Helka's going to recoup her money. They will take 1/10 of the profits, basically. And then you all, actually, really, I don't even need to put theirs as a percentage. Just make it a flat 80. They'll take their 80, and then you all will basically recoup, or you all will then take extra profit with Helka, effectively from that point as equal partners. And that also will, yeah, let's just call it as you all, as like the 5 of you will take equal percentages.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Johann spits in his hand and clasps as many palms as necessary to seal the deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to do that, you can clasp their hand and help each of them back up to their feet as you basically welcome them a ship. And they will each kind of like diligently look to you all, slowly, eventually making their way back to their weapons, returning them to their sheaths, to their belts, or over their shoulders. As they look to you all for guidance, Helka will be quick to instruct you all. It's time to prepare calling AngaJuk, and soon set on our way. And among the things that she will do is we should begin by fishing. We need to catch some squid or octopus to placate the whale.
Keothi lifts up a frozen elk hide on his sled, and you see the carefully butchered remains of half an elk. And he asks, does this whale like elk?
I'm rather sure, perhaps, but it maybe has never had it. We could definitely bring the octopus with your hide. She's just gonna take like kind of like the side dagger that pretty much anybody would have for like at dinner time that you would use to like cut your food and basically spear it and eat with it. A lot like we now use like forks and knives. And she just kind of takes like the side of the dagger and starts to like scrape it against the hide to kind of remove that last bit of like sinew and fat that's like right below the skin like the subcutaneous fat. And as she removes it, smells it, how fresh is this kill?
Less than 2 hours ago.
It would be better being riper, but If we can use this, I have tackle. We should be able to grab an octopus or a squid rather quickly.
Johann accepts this as the most, logical thing in the world and immediately launches into an exhaustive, opinionated, like, oh well, the best way to catch octopus is such and such, but that's not available to us. So he's just weighing in and educating everyone on the nuances of octopus and squid fishing as if it's the most natural thing in the world.
So let me have the four of you all roll survivals as you basically will go off to the ice to AngaJuk's Blowhole and toss in some um, elk baited fishing tackle, attempting to catch an octopus.
So I think Brannick is going to, oddly enough, for whatever reason, he had a vision of this or a dream or something the previous night, so he feels like he knows the best spot. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of those 15 on the portent dice for my fishing.
Excellent choice.
And I don't have any survivals +1, so it'd just be a 16.
And Valixis, can you roll a survival for me? Alrighty, so Keothi and Brannick. Over the next hour or so, the two of you are both going to be among those who get bites. If you will, make an athletics check for me. So, as you all throw in your baits, spend the next bit of time fishing and kind of like chatting amongst each other. The four kind of servants that you all have hired seem to rather quickly kind of fit into their role, taking care of the group to kind of like um, heat like teas and things and start to actually like bring basically stuff to everybody so you can actually fish, and they're kind of like subservient to your skills and kind of like looking to you for information already. As the two of you start to catch these things on your lines, um, you see as they all actually kind of like fall in almost like with that full excitement to root you on to bring up the squid. Each of you are going to bring in. Brannick, let me have you roll just any die. Odd is a squid, even as an octopus, and do the same for me, Keothi. So an octopus and a squid from each of you. And as you bring these up out of the holes, um, everybody's going to have that moment of cheer, and Helka is going to be very excited, but kind of like almost holding it back behind herself. Johan, you'll kind of catch this is that like captain level of she's stoked, she's happy, everything is going to plan, but she's also trying to show that like stoic level of this is what a leader does. A leader doesn't let things affect them. They lead and they make things happen because they know it was always going to happen. Um, and she'll kind of like move away from the hole, and she's like, and now we call AngaJuk, and heading over to the dock that's on this like spire of ice just to the northwest of you. She's going to head over to this big brass bell and ringing it 3, 4, 5 times. She'll look back to the group. AngaJuk should be here shortly. We should be weary of anything that might come, but at present, I believe we are very fortunate to have met you. And she'll kind of like bow her head to Keothi, um, in recognition that the elk fat was the perfect bait for bringing in something like the squid and the octopus.
Well, it was beginner's luck, actually. It's not the right bait at all, but beginner's luck is a real thing. And Johann has impressed upon the newcomers that they are not to speak of whale oil in the presence of AngaJuk or AngaJuk's allies.
Understood. We will be present, but we will not speak. So while you all are waiting here, there's going to be a development that kind of catches all of your eyes. Let me get a perception check from everybody. Velixis, you might be perhaps the most familiar with the dangers as a small little kobold of not keeping your eyes to the sky, the things that dragons might bring as time goes by has taught you that it's always wise for little small creatures to keep their eyes upward, and after a little while, you're pretty quick to notice that there is indeed something that seems to be flying overhead, that perhaps the bell has brought something else to this area. And as you pointed out, Brannick, you're not going to really be able to spot what the others are seeing, but Johann, Keothi, and Velixis are pretty quick to start to describe to you that they see large winged creatures flying above, two, maybe three of them. And after a while, Johann's going to be the one who's able to spot that there are indeed three. And from what you can tell, you're pretty sure these are some sort of carrion bird, as you can kind of see the signs to you that makes you think that they might be some sort of vulture. Not too big. There's only three of them. It shouldn't really be a problem. What do you all have in mind as you see these carrion flying above you?
Keothi stirs his great axe and brings out his longbow. He knocks an arrow and waits to see what happens.
Yeah, Brannick is thinking maybe they can scare him off with like a firebolt or something, but it takes him a little bit of time to find out what the others are kind of pointing at because he's distracted.
Felix is just, she just kind of just stares and is like, you know what? I'm not even surprised. All the birds, all the winged creatures that fly over now, I'm just, at this point, I'm not even surprised that it's a flock of them.
Johann calls to the archers that they should they should look to the skies, and he's sort of judging. He's trying to get a sense of whether these are creatures are of the size that a gust of wind would knock them aside, would overwhelm them, or if they're so large that they would overwhelm a gust of wind. That is to say, a gust of wind spell.
Keothi calls out, "Everyone, these may be harmless. Maybe they come to the sound of the bell because the whale brings something that the birds eat."
So I'm just going to throw out there for your thought there with Johann. Anything that would fly in Icewind Dale in the least bit deals with hurricane force winds on a regular basis. Gust of
Okay,
wind is not going to even phase it.
got it.
20-mile-an-hour wind is like the regular up here. That's like a calm day. So when you recognize that perhaps they are just carrion coming to the sound, what is Keothi going to do? Are you all ready to start attacking these things? Or are you going to try to feed them and placate them?
Neither. I don't think we need to wait to. I don't think we need to do anything right now. We'll wait and see what the birds do. If they attack, we defend ourselves, but I don't see any reason to initiate the attack at this point.
So if you all are standing at the ready, let's get some initiatives. They're definitely going to start attacking you.
I'll keep forgetting to click my marker and then send it.
As long as you don't forget and then not say anything, it's perfectly fine. I have a player who like never clicks it and then never actually says anything. So we'll be like 3 rounds into combat. And then they ask, oh, why don't I ever get to go? I'm like, really?
Okay, apparently I don't think that I clicked my token first.
So, Brennick, as you're like starting to hold your fireball or firebolt, you're going to be the first to recognize that these creatures are far larger than they appear. They've been dropping far faster than perhaps anybody else was recognizing, and you're the first to see that they are indeed going to be threats to you all, as they are clearly coming down to your kills. What would you like to do?
All right, so as he recognizes this, Brent is going to kind of shout out to the others to, brace themselves, essentially warning them that these things are coming. And he's going to, with that, release his firebolt into I suppose, the closest one, which would be the one directly north of him, the closest one directly north, whichever one
Gotcha.
looks like it's the closest.
A solid strike into it. It's gonna burn its flesh for a good bit of damage. Let's see how it's doing. So solid burn, like it's like burned into one of its wings. You got a few of its like flight feathers, but at present it's still holding plenty strong as well. Any bonus or any movement from you here?
No, I mean he would have like pulled his dagger out in his free hand, but actually he might. Yeah, he'll just back up a little bit. But that's it.
The furthest of these creatures is going to swoop down into Velixis, grabbing at you with its talons. It is going to try to claw you with the talon and then bite into you with its beak. So as it claws out at you, I believe a 13 is a miss on Velixis. No, that is your AC. So it's going to hit you with its claws, doing 5 points of piercing damage, and then it will bite at you as it has you in its grasp, and it's going to do 6 more points of slashing damage. Oh wait, I did that wrong.
I'm sorry, give me one. Someone's banging at my door.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's just for me to remember because I'm going to forget. And of course, Felixis is next up, anyways. Theoretically, you should be able to go regardless of what Felixis decides to do here. What do you have in mind?
Is my hunter's mark from the earlier fight still active, or should I cast
It's an
it again?
hour? Or do you
Yeah,
have a
it's
longer
1
duration?
hour. 1 hour.
Roll a d4. If you roll a 4, you can have Hunter's Mark for the next like minute. Yeah. I'd say it was over that between the negotiations. Oh wait, the fishing anyways was supposed to be an hour. I feel
Oh
like that
yeah,
was still
fair
a
enough.
legit idea though.
All
But
right. Well, my bonus action, I'm going to cast Hunter's Mark. Probably on. Is Velixis grappled, or is Velixis just being clawed?
yeah, it's just being clawed, not actually grappled.
Okay, I'm gonna put Hunter's Mark on the one that Brannick damaged, and then shoot twice with my crossbow. I mean, with my longbow.
Okay, I'm back.
Gotcha. So we'll pick up with you in 1 second here, Velixis.
All right.
Keothi, as you draw back, focusing your attention with that hunter's mark, you are going to be able to, in quick succession, releasing 2 quick arrows, and right through the throat, right through the spine. You'll see as that second arrow, the long neck of this creature just goes instantly limp, and you've almost entirely severed its head with its arrows as that creature is going to plummet out of the sky from about 60 feet above you all.
Keothi looks pleased with himself and shouts out, "Woohoo!"
So, Felixis, you would have taken a total of 11 damage there, 5 piercing as you're grasping the claw, and then 6 slashing as it starts to bite into you with its beak. And then you are next up in combat. What do you have in mind as this creature is effectively like swooped down on top of you and is attacking?
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say I took 11 damage and then another 6?
No, 11 total, 5 piercing, 6 slashing.
Okay.
So I don't know when somebody knocked on your door, whether you got the 5 piercing already. And that's kind of where it just kind of depends where you were at. But regardless, I don't think you got attacked in the fight with the thugs. So I think you should just be missing a total of 11 hit points at this point.
I got shot with the arrow from the last fight. Okay, so since let's see. And I'm being grappled right now, correct?
Not grappled. More just the flavor of how these things attack. They attack first with their claws and then they bite at you, but it's not actually any mechanical difference. If you die, it will 100% grapple and fly away with you, though. You've seen that before.
Felixis is actually going to jump. She's going to actually jump back, or start dodging backwards her full 30 feet to try to get some distance between her and the creatures.
Are you just moving, or are you using an action to dodge when you say dodge backwards, or are you disengaging with an action?
Yeah, she's disengaging. She's trying to get some distance between her and these creatures.
Gotcha. Go for that. Any bonus action?
She'll cast a fireball at the creature once she's gotten back.
If you disengage, that's your action. You have to do something that's a bonus action. I don't necessarily think you have one.
Right. No, she doesn't have one. That's it for her.
Gotcha. So we just did Keothi killing the one that Brannick had already attacked. And that will go to, I think, the last of. So one is going to swoop down towards you, Brannick, doing the same thing where it's going to claw out at you first. And it will miss as it grasps for you, and then it's going to bite out at you.
I'm going to shield that one.
Gotcha.
Brings it to 21 AC.
21. That's exactly what it needs. I feel like this is one of those things where you still have that sense, so you don't necessarily have to use your shield there.
Okay.
You have like a magical sense. I feel like whether it actually works or not.
Okay.
So that was the beak. It's going to do 2d4. So 5 total piercing damage as it bites into you. And then that's going to take us to Johan.
Johan, I'm just trying to look at distances here. Okay, Johan shoots a guiding bolt at the northernmost of the 2 creatures.
As you Describe to me as you cast this guiding bolt and the creature dies.
Oh, well, the guiding bolt flies out at the creature. I think that was the one that had dared to attack Felixus. So as it tries to pull itself back into the sky, Johan's guiding bolt strikes it in its chest, clean between the wings, and it drops back to the ice. And then as a bonus action, spiritual weapon.
You can't cast that, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because
One
you
spell.
can't. Got it. Okay, so other than that, I think Johan will move a little.
So while he's doing his movement, Brennick, you have the one that's still attacking you. You've seen two of these kind of shredded from the sky. What do you have in mind?
Yeah, so Brannick, as the thing is like clawing and biting at him, he's like kind of holding up his hands almost to try to shield himself. But as he does that, he kind of like uh, flips his wrist back, almost like kind of like the Spider-Man web move, and he's gonna shoot some poisonous fumes into the creature's like face, trying to knock it away from him or hit it with poison spray.
Con save?
Which is
Yeah, con 14.
yep, DC 4.
That's a cantrip, right? Save or suck?
Yep, if he passes, no damage.
Yep. As you like start to like seep this poisonous like air out of your hand, and it's almost like liquid kind of flows over this creature's face. You can see as it seems to have been prepared enough to hold its breath. It doesn't seem to be affecting its beak. For whatever reason, this creature just doesn't seem to be affected by that at present.
Okay, that's my turn.
Gotcha. Staying in contact, it will go to Velixis.
Okay, on that last creature, she's honestly just gonna move to the side a little bit and launch a firebolt.
You have advantage while Brannick is right next to it. Go for it. Any movement or any bonus action. Otherwise, Keotha, you watch as this thing is blasted by a little firebolt. And as it singes some of the creature's feathers, it otherwise seems to be doing rather fine for having just been hit by some fire.
Keothi is going to use his bonus action to transfer Hunter's Mark onto the living vulture, and then shoot it once with his longbow.
And then roll the d6 for Hunter's Mark, please. Pierced through the wing, the creature is still doing rather fine. It's definitely not going to be the healthiest day for this creature, but any other movement or... Yeah, I think that's probably all of your action economy.
Yep, that's it.
Feeling like it's been attacked from behind, it's going to soar over and start to swarm down upon Johan. Brennick, you have a dagger in your hand. Would you like to make an attack of opportunity? It swoops over and towards the person who just had the gall to shoot it with a long arrow.
Yep, I think he will. Seeing this poison spray didn't seem to do anything, he'll give it a shot.
So claw out at it with its dagger. That swipe's gonna cut off like a large chunk of the flight feathers across its tail, And as it flies across the pool of water, you can already see it's unsteady in flight. And as it claws out and then bites at Johann, this creature is hardly able to maintain itself in the air. And then, Johann, what would you like to do?
Guiding bolt.
That will be at disadvantage, but it doesn't matter. And that too will kill this one as its body falls into the water and sinks down into the ice.
Keothi quickly looks at the other bodies and sees if there's anything worth salvaging on them before they freeze rock hard, like flight feathers or claws or, you know.
Well, what would you like to salvage from them?
Flight feathers for arrows is very handy. That's all I can think of right now.
Gotcha. So do a survival for me. And roll 2d20. Between the two birds, you're able to take 34 nice flight feathers from them. In the long run, that's a large stack of arrows that you should be able to make for quite some time.
Keothi grins happily, throws them on the back of the sled with all of his other stuff.
So, as you all are in this spot, kind of coming down from your adrenaline, starting to see signs that you're back kind of in a safe little moment, Keothi starts to harvest these feathers from these creatures. Johann, are you thinking of anything? Brennick, Velixis, what's on everybody's mind?
Johann approaches Velixis and asks if Velixis needs healing.
Yes.
And Brennick, watching Keothi harvesting some feathers, he might actually pull out a couple of the periton feathers that he had gotten before and just kind of, say like happened to recover these last evening. I don't know if it's anything you'd be interested in. I'll probably only need one or two myself for thinking of making a quill out of them, but is there anything you can use?
Keothi smiles happily and says, "Thank you. This is a princely gift."
I think as a member of the Spine of the World, you should have a pretty solid idea. Do you, Gareth, understand what a periton is?
Yes, I had a paladin who rode one once.
Excellent, excellent. Before you actually expend that slot for healing Velixis, you all are still waiting for the whale. Do you want to try to short rest here? Have you all thought about that? Like, is anybody currently 50%, 25%, or less?
Without that heal, I will be at 6 HP.
And what your total is 27. So yeah, you'd be under a quarter. So you'd be severely bloodied. Anybody else bloodied condition 50% or less?
No, Brennick's got a few scratches, but he's mostly fine.
Keothi's hands are still dripping a little bit of blood, but he's fine.
So do you all have thoughts on whether you would like to try to rest before AngaJuk gets here? Do you want to continue just kind of throw out the heal and just waiting? What's everybody thinking?
We could take a short rest.
Yeah, do we have any idea of how long it normally takes AngaJuk to arrive, or is it kind of she gets here when she gets here?
It will largely depend where she is in the sea. It has always been my understanding that Anja was powerful enough to create this bell to where it would ring for AngaJuk wherever she might be at that time.
In that case, if we can catch our breath for a bit, I don't see the harm. I can keep watch if needed. And Keothi, Brannick would have offered you 4 parrots and feathers if you, I don't know, actually, or want to keep track. But
Yep, thanks. I'll put them on my inventory.
So if you want to save that spell slot, Larry, you are welcome to. You all can take a rest here. Is that what you all are kind of thinking? Brannick, if you don't need to do anything, that's perfectly fine, but short resting isn't terribly limited either. So as long as you try, you can manage it if nothing happens.
yeah, I am going to. In that case, I will go ahead and take the short rest, and I'm going to try. I'll use if the rest goes fine, I'll use my arcane recovery to recover
Gotcha.
2 first level spell slots. I think I can do that, right? A combination.
Yeah, I think it's half your level. Right now you should be level 4, so I think you can gain a 2 or 2 1s.
Okay, yeah. For some reason, I was thinking maybe you can only gain 1 spell slot, but I think it's just up to 2 levels of spell slots. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think it caps at 6 is what it ends up being. But yeah, I'm pretty sure like at a high enough level you can gain up to whatever it would be, like 5, I think. It's kind of the maximum number of spell slots.
yeah, I think you can't recover anything higher than a 5th level spell.
So anybody who would like to, you can regain using some of your hit dice. Just make sure in D&D Beyond that as you set that up, that you're actually like clicking it and letting it register that you're using the hit dice to regain hit points here. You can obviously regain your spell slots with your wizards there. But as you all spend this time in rest, there's going to be, a kind of casual wait in this area. Anybody with real experience, which is pretty much every single one of you, recognizes that any time spent in this area, in the same spot, is a dangerous moment. So nobody's um, completely without their awareness, knowing how dangerous this could be. But probably about 20-25 minutes into this process, you all will eventually see as a large spear like protrusion comes up out of the water, and about 6 feet down this large cylinder, like large spear, it starts to twist in like a tripartite cylinder, and you can see that it kind of extends about another 6 before you eventually see like a prow of a ship come out, and water kind of flows out over it, and there's a small ship basically has surfaced in this area. And then after a few seconds beyond that, you start to see a very large head of a sperm whale before its head comes up out of the water. You see its mouth, and at any given point, one of you is looking at one of the eyes, and it's almost looking directly at you, kind of perpendicular to this massive frame that it has. And on top of it, this small prow of a ship, and it's looking across you all. And then after a few moments, Anja, who has summoned? Why have you rung under spell? And I guess Helka will step forward off of the bell. You'll see as like the entire ship kind of moves to focus in on Anga or on Helka, and she'll look. Hello, friend. You may not remember Many years past, you granted me travel under your protection. We have brought you gifts. And she'll like raise a hand to Keothi. She'll raise her right hand off to Brennick and just kind of like with that come hither motion, like basically asking Brennick, the octopus, Keothi, the squid, give them
I
to her.
toast the squid and bring it over to her.
Yep, and Brannick does the same with the octopus.
And it'll take that kind of moment to like twist itself so the boat is perpendicular to Keothi. And it'll look out. Are you just like holding out the squid in front of you?
Sure. Feed it like I'd feed a puppy.
Gotcha. So yeah, it'll like kind of like look at you with its eye, and then you'll see is this like massive tongue, probably still twice the size of your Goliath frame, kind of like sticks out of its mouth, and it's going to reach out towards you and very gently kind of lift the body almost as if it were like bearing like a dead fellow before you see as it like gets away from you and very quickly returns to its mouth and starts to like chew into this creature before it swallows. You're too kind. And then it slowly does the same thing, turning to Brennick, so it's facing him sideways. How are you handing the octopus to him, Brennick?
Yeah, Brannick is definitely kind of holding the octopus out a little bit more gingerly. I almost think of it like almost like a little kid, like like seeing like a horse, like a huge creature for the first time, and like being told to feed it, and like knowing it's it seems like it's docile, but he's still kind of like just given the size difference on the unfamiliarity of the creature. He's being pretty um he's holding it out gingerly, like with the octopus, and he's trying to kind of not show any like trepidation, but probably failing.
Roll either a performance or a deception for me. AngaJuk's going to, as it has you in its eyes, um, kind of like twist a little bit so you're almost like 45 degrees away from its mouth. So its eye is kind of looking at you in a less ideal fashion. And it's going to just slowly say, if you hold it up, I can take it without hurting you. So it's just kind of saying, like, basically hold it from like the head and let the whole thing dangle. And it's just going to like wrap its tongue around it like a cylinder and slowly take the creature from you before it chews it. And then it'll look back to Helka. You have remembered well. What do you ask now? You guys know how much I love role playing with myself, right? So if nobody's gonna step forward, Helga's going to continue forward, and she kind of looks to AngaJuk, bowing low, and she'll just say, "Friend, I have a meeting in the Sea of Moving Ice. We wish to remain out of the sight of both Aurel as well as the White Dragons, and I hope that you can take us there. Is there anything we can do, or would you be prepared to do it as is?" And for now, let me get a persuasion from everybody. Gonna hear like a massive whoosh as AngaJuk like expels water up into the air, and there's just like a small blizzard of snow that starts to sprinkle down over the party. Predominantly those on kind of like the southeastern side of the hole, as the wind is gathering up most of the snow in that direction. And then you hear like, something smells delightful that I have never smelled. Anga. Ages ago, I smelled such a thing. You have 2 legs, it has 4.
Keothi grabs
Fresh.
some elk meat off the sled and holds it out the way he held out the squid earlier. Asks, "Is this what you are interested in?"
So this time, AngaJuk's going to like actually lick it first, and then you hear that same like whoosh of air as it's like inhaling the smell as it's tasting it. Yes, Anga brought me this twice before. What do you call this, friend?
This is elk.
I will take you where you care to go for this memory. And it's gonna wrap its tongue around it and again like take the elk from you and just consume. Effectively, like, if you had that elk like quartered, it's gonna take like whatever quarter you picked up there. But you can tell there was like that moment where Anga like caught the whiff of, or AngaJuk caught the whiff of this thing that was ages lost to its memory, and it was almost gone. And this is like that moment of not only like a nostalgic memory, but also a memory like brought back to life that was long dead. And AngaJuk will lay her head down on the ice. You all hear like this beautiful sound of like cracking, sharp, beautiful high and low pitch sounds. I don't know if anybody has ever heard an ice skater out in like the Arctic or like Switzerland, not Switzerland, Iceland, who like skates on like freshly frozen lakes. It's beautiful, like the noises that it makes. But like as she kind of like lays her heads down, like the ice almost makes these like beautiful cracks. Not actually like crushing through the ice, but as she lays herself down, you all have a little bit closer access to the actual ship, and she'll kind of, you can come aboard.
Keothi drags the sled on board the boat. It's a little boat attached to the back of the whale. Yeah.
Yeah, did you see that picture that I popped up? I think I should have shared it for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Well, I saw that. I was wondering how people got on.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, it is essentially like I think it's actually like the upper deck of a ship, but like an actual like seagoing vessel that probably sunk at some point. When you all start to climb aboard, you're going to see plenty of signs that this thing is ancient. If Anga put this thing on AngaJuk, it was many hundreds of years ago that this happened, and perhaps AngaJuk is much older than anybody would be quick to understand. But looking over the actual whale itself, the boat is mounted by leather straps. Perhaps the easiest way to climb aboard is to basically use those straps like a ladder, or like almost like putting your feet against the whale and using that tension laterally away from it to climb up. But you all can climb aboard, and for with that, I think what I'll have you do is just have each of you roll a d20 for me. Um, So for that was basically just for me to have a sense of like what might happen while you all are on the back of AngaJuk. Um, but as she starts to submerge, let me actually get a wisdom saving throw from all four of you. So as she starts to submerge back into the water, um, Felixis and Keothi, the two of you are going to be the first to like recognize like we're on a ship and this whale is going underwater. And panic's going to start to set in for a few moments before you kind of like catch eye. Helka's not moving. Helka's not worried about this in the least bit. And as you kind of start to submerge down into the water, the sides of the ship are actually going to start to form almost as if there is a magical shield around the boat itself. And AngaJuk is going to exhale, and you kind of like get this smell of almost like it's not pleasant, fetid death. Um, Anybody who has any recognition of what ambergris smells like when it is fresh, it is this. This creature is like exhaling from its lungs and from that as well, a little bit like from its actual throat and stomach area, where you're getting that scent of the actual ambergris kind of mixed up into this air. But as you go deeper and deeper underwater, this shield of air kind of forms an air bubble around the ship, as you can see. And the whale is going to kind of sink down into the water, starts to talk to Helka, gets a description of where Helka is looking to go, and will kind of speed off in that direction. As you all are looking off, Johan and Keothi will be quick to recognize that there are two narwhals who are actually swimming with AngaJuk, as well as two dolphins who are swimming. So you're in like a pod of 5 different creatures in here. But overall, for the next few hours of travel, does anybody have anything that they want to like ask AngaJuk? Are there any thoughts as you all are kind of traveling? Because more or less, I'm going to speed through part of this here.
I mean, Keothi would like to use animal handling skills and talk to AngaJuk and share stories, but I don't want to bog down everything if we've only got a limited time.
Yeah, Felixis just wanted to basically just ask like where he actually came from and how old he was. Basically, same thing. She wanted to hear some stories.
Yeah, and Brannick is he kind of gets over his initial trepidation pretty quickly, and he's fascinated by this whole like kind of magical shield type of thing. So he would spend most of his time but kind of just like looking at that, and if it's like maybe once after the others start talking to AngaJuk, he might ask a couple questions about like how does this work, kind of just out of sort of wizardly curiosity.
Johann would, since it involves a ship, he would be pointing out things of absolutely no importance and, having strong opinions about them and explaining them to everyone. But he's just covering it. Like he's really shaken by this, by AngaJuk. So if the conversation shifts, maybe he'll calm down a little. But mostly he's just pointing out absolutely trivial aspects of the ship and how you can tell it's old and so forth.
So is it safe to assume that like Johan could be off completely alone, but you're having the exact same conversation, or you could have all 10 people aboard the ship right next to you as like that same conversation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Um, so while you're doing that, you can kind of have these different moments where anybody kind of interacts with you from that perspective. Um, Keothi or Velixis, is there anything in particular that you do want to talk to AngaJuk about? Or can we just assume that on some level you are having just kind of this like friendly conversation about creatures, the deep, and things like that. Like, what do you have in mind?
Yeah, just friendly conversation with the big happy whale. Let's make friends. Remember me. My name is Keothi.
Nah, not really. Um, nothing right now. There is someone I want to talk to, but it's regards to her backstory, which I still haven't put up for you to see yet. But yeah, uh, nah, nothing she wants to talk about particular right now.
Gotcha. So in the process of these different moments where you all are having conversations here, let me get a Arcana from Brannick, and let's get an animal handling from Keothi. All right, so Keothi, for what it's worth, you do have an excellent conversation with AngaJuk. Among them, you all are going to have a discussion that certainly spans a extremely long lifetime. I think it's safe to say that at any given time, Valixis is definitely enthralled and taking part in this conversation as well, in recognition that AngaJuk is at least 200 or so years old, if not much older. AngaJuk recognizes that she is intelligent because of a gift from Anga. She doesn't necessarily know whether it is something that can be taken away or something that Anga had to give to her at a cost for herself. But AngaJuk does recognize that it has been a long time since she's seen Anga again. It's a point of pain, but it's also like a point of hope where AngaJuk doesn't actually know. Like tomorrow may be the day that I get to see Anga again. And that's one of those things where you kind of get that extra sense like part of why she returned to the bell. The first thing any of you all remember was that she said, Anga? You could tell that this old, wise creature was returning to see its old friend. Brennick, as you are enthralled by this field around this creature, eventually you're going to get a sense that it's probably not entirely safe to like reach out beyond it. But there will be points where you're trying to actually like come close to that point between the water and the air. And eventually AngaJuk will actually kind of like stop that conversation with the other two to pick it up shortly after, but to be like, be weary, friend. Things that leave the bubble cannot enter back in. We have to surface for you to find safety.
Fascinating. Fascinating. And Brennick will heed her warning and kind of move away a little bit from the edge. And he might like ask, like, was this another, was this another gift from Anga? Um,
Anga was very curious about the lives underneath the water. Anga made the ship and me to guide them through the sea, see things that none of your kind ever witnessed before.
yeah, so Brannick is clearly impressed, and he's like thinking in his head like he definitely would like to meet this Anga too at some point, kind of pick her brain. Um, but otherwise, that's kind of all for the substantive questions that he has for her.
So time's going to progress through. You all are going to have these different occurrences where you're kind of like crossing past incredibly large fish, incredibly large whales, many things that pale in comparison to the size of AngaJuk herself. But it's a beautiful experience to get to pass through this world, and especially so on the back of a creature in a warmth that you realistically have not felt for quite some time. The air itself isn't necessarily any warmer than it was previously. AngaJuk does exhale into it from time to time, kind of increasing that stench, um, like of bile from her stomach, and also getting like fresher air from its lungs. But at the same time, the air is still pretty cold. It's just that there's no wind, and stagnant air that's not actually being cut by wind is extremely rare in Icewind Dale. And it's a delight. This is one of those things where you all are getting a unique perspective of the sea. You can see all these glaciers kind of afloat in the water above you. You can see all of these creatures, and it's at high speeds on the back of this whale until eventually there is going to be a danger. And at some point, you are going to see as a squid nearly the size of AngaJuk is actually going to kind of jut out, and in a moment kind of grasp into the whale with one of its extremely, I feel like squids have two super long tentacles with the actual like claws in them, and kind of like grasp into the back of AngaJuk, and there's just going to be a shudder as the ship kind of catches for a moment and stops moving. And AngaJuk is going to kind of twist about and start to battle with this creature, and you all are in the midst of this battle. So we are going to do this effectively is just going to be a very theater of the mind battle. So there's a lot more room for you all to do kind of what you want, without necessarily like the hindrance of the strategy of a battle map. So let me just have everybody roll for initiative. There's not going to be like a counter though. And then let me all have you roll a one more d20 for me, please.
I mean, it's all dark under the water here. How far can we see?
It's one of those things where this is like pretty crystal clear ice, and the actual rime is still like the aurora above, like shedding light into the ice. So as far as things go, like they could benefit from your powers for sure. But the battle that you all have at hand is still very much your immediate like area, anyways. But underneath the water, in the long run, I think this is pretty similar conditions of what you all would have outside of the water. The darkness that you experience under the water that is not above land, I think, is negligible compared to like the loss of sight because of snow. But it's still one of those things where realistically, at most times, both above the surface and underwater, I think you're pretty well limited to about 60 or 100 feet of sight at any given time.
Okay.
So the extra d20s were for the little sidekicks that you all hired. Um, you will have the first choice from Johann as well as of Elixis, whether you want to take one of the archers with a longbow or whether you would like to take one of the thugs with a heavy crossbow. What would you all like to use for the two of you?
I'm sorry, what are we doing with them?
You're going to get like a temporary sidekick for this battle.
Thug with heavy crossbow.
Gotcha. And Velixis?
I thought the one with the regular.
You're gonna take the archer with the bow, the longbow.
Yeah, the archer with the longbow.
Gotcha. And then it looks like Brennick. Do you want an archer or a crossbow?
I'll take the other archer.
Gotcha. So Keoth will have a crossbow, and Johan will have a crossbow.
I
And
can't
then
choose
the
the
other
giant squid.
longbow. Yeah. Y'all are basically in this battle. Like, if AngaJuk dies to a giant squid, you guys are underneath the water and pretty much dead. So I'm assuming you're going to try to fight and help AngaJuk. Sorry, that might have been railroading you that you guys are going to defend the whale.
No, we're going to defend the whale.
So, Keoth, how this is going to work for you is you basically can do whatever you would like, and then you have the thug with the crossbow who's going to immediately follow up behind you in initiative order. So we're going to kick it off with you. What would you like to do in this kind of first turn as you see this squid like reach out, grabbing at the whale, and all of a sudden the like forward momentum you have underwater is just halted and everybody's kind of shaken.
Well, I would love to cast a spell, but I have used all of my mighty 3 spell slots. So all I can do is shoot it twice with my crossbow. I mean, with my longbow. Ten and an 8. I guess they both miss.
Yep, each of those are going to kind of get diverted in the water as you first shoot, realizing that there's definitely going to be a difficulty with that change in the liquid between the air volume and the volume of the water. But do a d20 for me for the crossbow, and then follow that up with a hit with a d8. My bad, a d10. So you see as the thug's arrow is a little bit better of a shot. It's close enough that it's a solid strike into it. And it does at least a little bit of damage to this, as you can see like a shudder in this long tentacle that's grabbing into the whale. With that, we will go to Val.
Keothi pouts like a petulant teenager because he missed and the other guy hit.
Okay, did you say you was going to me next?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then what she's gonna do is she's gonna cast a fireball at one of the tentacles.
And then roll an attack for your longbow, and I believe you will follow. You can roll 2 of those, and you will follow it up with a d8 for each one. So the firebolt is going to fly out at this creature and hit into it. You will recognize that there is a less effective burn to a fire spell hitting a creature that is completely submerged in water. You see at least a little bit of a sign of the actual like flesh being seared, but you're going to recognize pretty quickly that fire may not be your ally while you all are underwater. The second of those arrows is going to aim true. Let me get a d8 from you. And then with that, the squid is going to try to strike deeper into AngaJuk. So as the squid starts to like get closer and you start to see the eyes of this thing in this massive like triangular form come out of the shadows behind AngaJuk and start to like almost consume around the tail, you're going to see as tentacle after tentacle starts to lash out. The first few of them are hitting against the actual like air shield that's around you all, and then starting to grasp into the actual like flesh of the whale. And you see as there's little spouts of blood from all these different points along the actual length of these tentacles, as one, two, three, four more tentacles grasp into AngaJuk and start to pull you all backwards with another shudder, as your momentum has not only stopped, but you're now being pulled in the opposite direction towards the squid itself. And with that, Johan, what would you like to do?
I will attack it with my light crossbow as my action.
Excellent. Solid hit.
As a bonus action, I'll throw spiritual weapon.
Piercing into one of its like fleshy points, like right in front of the eyes. And then you have a crossbow shooting as well from one of your allies. Let me get a d20.
Oh!
And you definitely got the one who gave up immediately. He kind of like went to pick up his crossbow, and as he's like shaking with fear, just like fires the arrow, and it just like sinks into the deck like immediately behind one of your allies. And he's like, "That wasn't. There was a mistake. I am very sorry. Please don't kill me." And like the "please
Steady
don't
on,
kill me"
steady on.
is the "please don't kill me" is going to be aimed towards the scout, who basically said, "I will be the first to kill any of them if they try to turn on you." And then with that, AngaJuk is going to kind of whirl around and with like a strike from its tail is going to try to like strike up towards the large part of this creature, or the actual like flesh of the body. And then it's going to follow that with a bite from its mouth. Yeah, it like almost hits with a nat one. So when AngaJuk like swirls at it with its tail, it's going to strike up into this creature and get a solid hit. But the tentacles and their grasp on AngaJuk are just enough that when it goes to bite towards the actual flesh of the squid, it's incapable of actually getting close enough because it has so much of a grasp around AngaJuk. And then that's going to go to Brennick. What would you like to do?
All right, so Brannick, knowing that the whale goes down, we're all in trouble, is going to go with a shooting at his hand, casting. You see 4 darts shoot out from his like fingertips into this squid as he casts a 2nd level magic missile. And then the archers get 2 shots, right?
Yes. Both of those will hit for, is that 12 total? So between those missiles and the strikes from the arrows, as the party starts to wind down on this creature, you can already see as there's large amounts of blood seeping from the wounds of both AngaJuk as well as the squid. But it's becoming clearer and clearer that the squid is already being severely wounded. And it's going to go back up to the top of the order with Keothi. What would you and your ally like to do?
We are both going to shoot it.
You told the story. We're getting close to the end of the session. You've got inspiration. Roll an extra d20 for me and use that up. Let's see if you can get a hit.
I'm guessing an 8 doesn't do it.
Can I use my portent to give him a 15? Or is that too much with the inspiration?
I feel like under the idea that that was the inspiration, what I was going to say is, was that roll already for your crossbowman versus was that roll meant to be your inspiration?
No, that was my crossbow man, but
Yeah, so roll another one as your. Well, actually, here's the thing. If you would like, I'll let you use your other portent, Justin, but it's not going to take his inspiration. He's rolled
it
too
doesn't
bad.
matter. I'm not rolling real well.
Do you
That's
have
a
a +4
14.
though?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, for you.
14.
Yeah, so its AC is 14. So with that, with your use of your inspiration, it is enough that you were able to pierce into this creature, and do another 5, and that will bring us to Valik.
All right, so she's actually going to cast an ice knife this time instead.
Right into its eye. Stab it in the eye with an ice knife.
He's going to cast it into his eye.
And roll the damage. Oh wait, does it do nothing if it misses? I feel like it automatically explodes on the creature, right? Ice knife always confuses me.
Honestly, I'm not sure about that because I know it said if when it goes through, it shatters.
Yeah, hit or miss the shard explodes.
Yeah.
It seems funny to roll a dexterity with a creature this large. So yeah, the actual knife itself is going to pass like underneath the squid, and you're going to see as the water behind it starts to freeze into this like sharp, jagged edges as that like single moat of water starts to freeze out, and you can actually watch as it kind of like grows into the squid and blood like flows out from that point, doing another good chunk of damage. At this point, you all can pretty clearly see that the squid is pretty well injured. And let's see what it thinks about its choice to try to eat AngaJuk. Um, at this point, there is going to be a large, like, black flow of liquid from between the tentacles. And within a few moments, this entire area around the bubble is going to get coated in thick black sheen. And from within, you all are effectively completely blinded for the moment. And within the next few moments, you're going to hear as AngaJuk kind of taking a breath and reassessing the moment, and has thought better of feasting on AngaJuk. Is your desire urgent?
Not really. Do you want to chase down that squid and eat it?
It would be a treat. Is it okay with all of you?
Chase will.
I wouldn't mind watching a giant whale eat a squid.
Got my vote.
I'm not one to deny you a fine meal.
Gotcha. So let me get a d20 from all of you. Let's take an average here. Starting off strong and countered. Very nice. So I mean that's going to be like 14ish without doing the actual math. I feel like. So as AngaJuk kind of heads off, you all get a solid sense that it's not difficult for AngaJuk to hunt something like this. You have a pretty good sense, or even it's being narrated by AngaJuk as the whale is so excited to go on this hunt that it kind of brings back its youth and the experience of being with Anga as they traveled through these seas, that the squid doesn't stand a chance as long as AngaJuk cares for it. The squid only had a chance in that initial moment of its attack. If it could have gotten AngaJuk at a disadvantage from the start, there's certainly a moment of thankfulness that AngaJuk had all of your missiles coming from the ship above. But between you all and this whale's own prowess, it doesn't take long for it to hunt the squid down. In general, you are not terribly delayed in your path to make it to the trader's location. And from here, I think we're going to kind of pass along with some narrative, as you all are basically going to eventually be brought to the aforementioned meeting place of Helka's connections. She'll kind of wink to you all to remind you all that we are here for seal oil, and make the trades. Let me get a persuasion from. Oh, actually, before anybody rolls, um, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody is deception. Yeah, Brannick, you could do a deception if you would like. I think everybody else would effectively be a persuasion to try to see if you all can get a more favorable or less favorable deal on these barrels of oil. Well done, Brannick.
Can I almost want to use some of my inspiration on that if I can. It's not too late.
I mean, most certainly. Did we end up having you use that die though? I don't even think you did that. You could have used that 15 as well.
Yeah, I almost did that.
It was a confusing moment. If you were thinking about using inspiration, I would rather tell you use the 15, and still, if you wanted to, you could manipulate it more. But
Yeah, I feel like kind of knowing that this is kind of what we're coming to, it makes sense that he would have maybe like focused on like and gotten some sense of like what kind of words might work. So I think I'm going to have him use that second 15 for the portent.
gotcha. So you'd have a 19 as your actual finished spell there. Valixis, can you roll a persuasion for me?
I'm sorry, I thought I clicked.
Oh, it might not have gone through. If it rolled on roll D&D Beyond, let me know the number. This one I'll actually make sure to do the math on. And were you using any inspiration on it, Justin?
I'm going to use 1 to make it a dirty 20 for me.
Gotcha. What's the best way to do this? Let me have you all roll a d4.
Well, 1 on a D4 is not so bad as a 1 on a D20. It's statistically speaking.
So after a short time negotiating, there's going to be a few moments where Helka kind of like looks to you all. Brennick kind of steps forward to do a little bit of negotiating. And there's going to be like a few kind of like key moments where the person that you all are negotiating with is kind of like faltering, and you all are going to notice one of the other pirates seems to kind of like be reacting to Brennick, and you kind of see like these few points, Brennick, where this person is going to kind of like wink at you as you say certain things, and moment by moment the negotiation number is kind of like climbing here and there until eventually Helka kind of steps back to the group, and she kind of like looks to you all. Most fortunate friends, we should be leaving here shortly with 13 barrels of seal oil. This will be a most profitable venture indeed. And as things go, when you all prepare to leave, this person who winks at you, Brennick, is going to be Kier. Um, and he'll kind of like leave the other crew and kind of like look back to them and with a little like tip of his hat, kind of, or whatever of sorts, you can kind of role play it. But I just figure at some point he's going to kind of like look to them and say, I actually have business in 10 towns. But however you would like to introduce Kier at this point, I think this is where we were going to have Kier join you.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty opportunistic guy, and seeing the party like getting the better of kind of the deal, he would definitely be the sort to like think to himself, maybe I should throw my lot in with these guys, and maybe he's getting a little tired of you know being on a ship. He wants to take some shore leave. So I think he would, like you said, kind of just be like, I think I've got some business elsewhere, and kind of come on and join. I honestly didn't think too much through about his personality and stuff yet. So, um, but yeah, I think that makes sense. That's how he would join up with them.
All good here. So as far as things go, again, like, um, you all are basically going to have a pretty similar trip back to that area. Um, we're going to end up pretty much calling things here. But as far as it goes, if there is a chance that if Keothi ever rejoins us again, all of you are going to walk with, I think it's safe to say, like 130 gold apiece, an extra 80 gold among your actual boon from this, and you can pay your actual group there who joined you all. Helka makes her own profit as well, and as things kind of turn, and you all are going to arrive back in Bryn Shindar a few days later. When you all prepare to leave, I think that might be where, if you guys want to discuss anything more with Helka, we can kind of like finish with that. But otherwise, I think we're going to have Helka kind of looking to the four that you all have kind of conquered and approaching them as her next crew, already begun, already proven, and already negotiated.
I think Brannick too would, seeing that they kept their word and they helped out in the fight with the squid, at least some of them. Um, Brannick would probably slip a few extra coins to out of his personal take. Um, you say it was 130 gold total, or
Each. Like, Helka would have total paid you all, what is that, 520? Yeah, that sounds right.
okay? Yeah, so he'll slip each of them an extra 5 gold from his take. Again, with the idea that better to have friends than enemies, and they did.
Roll a sleight of hand for me. And roll a d20 for, or yeah, d20 works. So you can attempt to subtract that gold. When you look in when you like eventually kind of like calm down for the night, you're going to notice that you have a little wrap of paper of parchment in your backpack that has 26 gold in it, and it's just a little note from Helka that just reads, "You don't have to pay my crew extra, but thank you for the thoughts that you had." And then it just has like kisses written at the bottom to you.
Oh, seems that generous spirit is its own reward. Of course, he was doing that purely out of kind of a self-interest, but he's glad it worked out.
So the net is 130 minus 20 apiece as our share to pay the crew, right?
Oh, I didn't even do it like that. You guys have like grand total taken 130 apiece.
Yes, I think that's after we took out the 80 for them. So we don't have to take out another
Okay.
20 apiece, I think, right?
So we each get 130 added.
Correct.
Sweet. Johann bids the crew farewell, and kind of lectures the one who had been a coward about the importance of, how he needs to grow up, and he should consider, it a great opportunity to work for Captain Helka, and maybe he'll learn to be a man. He's pretty condescending about it.
Keothi bids farewell to everyone and says, "Thank you. The money that I would have made from elk hide and elk meat would have been silvers for the weeks I worked. But thanks to you, I have hundreds of gold pieces in my pocket, and I am going to go shopping and then return to the mountains."
If you ever hear of Oya Minartok again, ever get whiff of her, of where she might be, do what you can to send me that message if you would. It was great meeting you, my friend.
Keothi takes off the necklace around his neck and removes from it a ogre's tooth that has his name carved on it. He says, "Here, take this as a token of my friendship. If you ever find yourself in Wormdoom Crag, in the mountains to the east, show this, and they will welcome you as a friend. Tell them that you know Keothi Ogrebane."
Johann is honestly very humbled by this and makes all appropriate noises.
Johan, can I get a intimidation from you? When you're kind of like trying to egg that guy on to be a better soldier, he's gonna like look to you and kind of like looking over you, removing his hood and kind of showing like his own like pepper grayed hair. He's just going to kind of chuckle, like, I'm maybe 5 years younger than you. We are both old fellows. Why do you keep calling me young man?"
Johann kind of looks at him appraisingly and decides not to go there and says, "Yeah, there was just something about your demeanor that struck me as that of a young man. My mistake."
Keothi giggles, not at all like a young man.
So we will end off here with you all in Brinchendar, having met a new friend in Keothi. having met allies in a rare of places. You all can pick up this next upcoming week. You have a sort of open invitation to come to Wormdom Crag at some point in the future, and to meet the clan of Goliath from which Keothi, your friend, has come. You now have a way to kind of show that you are battle brothers of a sort. I believe at present you all still understand that the Black Cabin is a place that you might head to under the request. I can't think of the full name of Copper from the House of the Morning Lord, um, but I think we will kind of pick up next session with you all kind of having a little bit more open space ahead of you. This also gives you the potential, if you all would care to spend some gold while you are in the biggest of the 10 towns. But I think this is where we will call it. Thank you all very much. I hope you had a fun time tonight and enjoyed your little visit with AngaJuk.